So this is the last Xiaomi mobile phone release here for 2017. We've got the Redmi 5 and the Redmi 5 Plus, which I'm reviewing here, which is the larger, better model. The other model only has a 720p screen, which for me to go back to a 720p screen in 2017, I don't think I could handle that. So that's why I got this model. Now it's interesting to note that a lot of people are claiming that have inside information that this is in fact what was going to be called the Redmi Note 5, but they haven't released that. But what it is really the Redmi Note 4X. It's got the same spec, so a Snapdragon 625, which they have really overused that chipset now. It's a shame they didn't go with a more modern Snapdragon 636, 4GB of RAM, 64GB of storage, dual SIM, 4000 mAh battery. And all they've done to change it from the Redmi Note 4X is just change the screen to the 18:9 aspect ratio. So resolution of 1020 by 2160 is what it has. And then the rear camera, they also changed that. So starting out with the screen here, if you've seen with my unboxing, I did have a little go at the viewing angles of it because I came from a more premium phone, then I looked at the screen and straight away you can see the difference. Now perhaps that was a little bit unfair, but if you do angle the screen away from you, you will notice straight away that that screen does dim, and quite a bit more than other panels, like for example the IPS panel, the 16:9 one that we have in the Redmi Note 4X. I feel this panel's not quite as good, but it is a decent panel. It does have good colors once you set the calibration of the screen to natural. I found out of the box it was just way too saturated for my own liking there, but it depends on your personal preference of course. But a very decent panel, very bright too, 530 lux. It also looks okay in sunlight. Now you also notice that we don't have hardware touch navigation keys in the bezel below here. So they've gone for on-screen ones, which is perfectly fine, but I prefer to have the touch capacitive ones in that space there. To me, it's wasted. If they put them in there, then that would give us the option then, wouldn't it? Up the top, we have the earpiece. Good call quality, by the way, out of this earpiece, and the microphone on the bottom. 5 megapixel front-facing camera with an f2.2 aperture, proximity sensor, light sensor, and we do have 2.5D glass as well. Down the bottom, we have a micro USB 2 port, which I feel is a bit of a mistake here. They should have put Type-C on here for two reasons. It really is the standard now. We're almost into 2018, and also the Type-C port is much more durable. A loudspeaker and then a microphone. And if you have a look at the right-hand side, we've got metal volume and power buttons. They feel fine, no complaints whatsoever with them. On the left-hand side, we have a dual SIM tray, so it will take either 2 SIMs or a micro SD card and SIM. Now the backing of it, you notice that the texture looks a little bit different at the top and bottom where they've got those strips there. It is in fact painted plastic, so not metal. It does not have a metal unibody, which I feel again is a bit of a shame here. They should have gone with a unibody if they could have, but perhaps the budget was all used up on that 18:9 aspect ratio screen. But other than that, I mean, it does feel good in hand. It is metal, the main part here. We have an always-on fingerprint reader that works flawlessly. It literally works 10 out of 10 times. It's really quick, just as good as the Redmi Note 4X's. Dual tone LED flash. The camera lens does protrude by about 1.5 millimeters. And the lens in there is f2.2 and the sensor is 12 megapixels. I'll give you some samples of the camera later on in this review, but it's actually quite decent for the price of this mobile phone. Finally, up the top here, we have an IR transmitter, secondary mic, and 3.5mm headphone jack. In the box, you will also get this soft rubber case for the phone, which is great because without it, the phone is really slippery. It protects the camera, all the corners, and of course it has perfect cutouts for all of your ports there. Now to quickly put it side by side with my Note 3, you can see the difference here between 16:9 aspect ratio and then 18:9. So 18:9 makes it look a little slimmer, a little more modern, doesn't it? Because the top bezel, okay, it's not as large as the Note 3's, but the Note 3 does have a fingerprint reader down here. But when you look at the side bezels, they're actually about the same. They're not any slimmer on this one, and it does make the mobile phone a little taller there. So we have 5.5 inches screen diagonally on the Note 3, and then 5.99 inches on the Redmi 5 Plus. My Redmi 5 Plus is running the Chinese ROM, so it only supports English and Chinese, and it's version 9.0.4 stable. Now, I have encountered a couple of bugs with this, but first I wanted to mention the performance, that just like any other Snapdragon 625 device, that it's reasonably quick here. Now, we are running, of course, MIUI 9, and it does have a few little tweaks, but I'm not going to go into the details of that because it would just fill up the review too much, and I'm pretty sure most of you know that. It's just an enhanced version of MIUI 8 that they call Lightning, slightly faster performance, but I have encountered this bug here. So the worst part so far is the GPS performance is quite terrible, so the accuracy should be a lot better. This is my best result that I could get, was 11 meters accuracy. Now, other mobile phones with the Snapdragon 625 that I have can get 3 to 4 to 5 meters of accuracy, and most of the time it's hovering around 18 meters. And what that means is that when you use something like Google Maps, open it up, it's actually reporting that you're probably on the next street. It's not accurate at all and didn't track me very well. So that's the only complaint with the ROM. Now, it isn't quite as fast, of course, as flagship chipsets. So the Snapdragon 835 will launch applications a lot quicker. You notice that sometimes the UI doesn't really lag. The only kind of lag you get is launching applications. So Shadow Fighter 3 here. See, that took about 2 or 3 seconds to load up. Now, on other flagship devices, that will be almost instantaneous, quite a bit quicker there. So that's just the typical kind of performance you'd get from a Snapdragon 625. Apart from the slow launch times of applications you get at times, other than that, I mean, Chrome, this is very smooth here. Loading in pages is also really good. The performance you're getting, multitasking as well, split screen. Now, I have noticed that sometimes in Skype, the keyboard will get some horrendous lag, but I don't think it's a problem of the ROM. I feel it's more a problem of actually Skype. It could be a bug with that, which is, at the moment, it's not actually doing it. So I can't reproduce this bug, but it's happened quite a few times off camera. Now, here's a benchmark score here. This is Antutu, so 63,000. Very good score for this chipset. The internal storage and those speeds are quite decent for this type of storage here. We have not too bad, of course, not as fast as UFS 2.1 speed that we get in flagships. Now, here we have the wireless performance. So I have a minor complaint with the 5 gigahertz band of wireless. It does take a long time to connect up, and speeds should be faster than this. On my Mi Max 2 with the same chipset testing the same network, we'll get about twice this speed. So hopefully Xiaomi can patch this. No complaints with 4G performance. In fact, excellent, really good. I mean, these are the fastest kind of speeds you'll be able to get over 4G with this. Now, I did a throttling test here, and after almost 6 minutes, it doesn't really throttle at all, the Snapdragon 625, and I didn't really notice it getting that warm either. Just slightly warm, but nothing to be worried about. Now, onto battery life. I got 10 hours and 20 minutes of on-screen time. Now, this isn't as good as the results I got with a very similar test on my Redmi Note 4X. Now, the reason I believe is because of the operating system. So I had MIUI 8 on my Redmi Note 4X, and now I have MIUI 9, and I think that's where the difference is coming from. MIUI battery life I found isn't as good as MIUI 8. They still need to tweak that. And you can see here I was quite heavy, so I used a lot of Chrome for 3 hours and 21 minutes browsing, Shadow Fight 3 for 1 hour and 45 minutes, and then Hit as well for 1 hour and 30 minutes. So really intense use here. That was pretty heavy on the battery. So it held up well. 10 hours is really good of on-screen time. So a pleasant surprise here when it comes to charge times. So it's not a Qualcomm Quick Charge 3 charger they have in the box, and that's because the phone sadly does not support Qualcomm's Quick Charge 3, but it will charge just as fast using this charger and the stock cable. I managed to charge it from 3% battery right up to 100% in only 2 hours and 11 minutes. So that's excellent for this type of mobile. Now to quickly touch on the audio quality. So the output from the 3.5mm headphone jack is okay. There's no static, there's no hiss or interference, which is great, but it just lacks a little bit of volume to me. Now the loudspeaker, we've only got one on the bottom. Sadly, they did not incorporate one into the earpiece like other Xiaomi models, but I'll give you a sample of the speaker now. So taking a look at gaming performance, demanding games like World of Tanks here have very smooth playable frame rates. Every game I've tested runs just fine. Now it won't be as fast as a Snapdragon 835, but the good thing is because it's such an efficient chip, you'll get longer gaming times and slightly better battery life as a result, because it just doesn't burn through it as fast. Now sample of the video, this is shot in 4K. It doesn't have any digital or optical image stabilization. You can't expect to have that, of course, at this price point. But the quality is quite decent. Now you will notice that the focus does struggle a lot, and even in this kind of perfect lighting conditions that we have at the moment, it will still do that focus breathing, which tends to be an issue on a lot of Xiaomi's phones, and it seems that they can't actually fix that. So I do recommend that you disable that in the options where you override the continual autofocus and you set the tap to focus option. Will give you a lot better quality. But I feel for the price, it's detailed, it's great to have 4K. There's a lot of other phones limit you to just 1080p. Let's have a look at the front-facing camera now. So the front-facing camera, you have no settings on it whatsoever. You cannot change the resolution, so you're stuck with what you get here. But it's recorded in Full HD, which is good. And I find the quality seems to be reasonably good for the price. I have really no complaints with it whatsoever. In low light, it will tend to get a little bit grainy and drop a few frames, but that's typical. So, okay, overall, this is a good phone, but I wouldn't go as far to say this is an amazing, great, the best of 2017 value mobile phone. No, because it has, at this stage, my time of doing this review, it's got that really bad GPS problem. I mean, the accuracy is horrendous, so GPS is terrible at the moment, and the 5G wireless, it does have a lot of problems connecting up or recognizing 5G networks, and the speed should be a little bit faster, and it's just so slow to connect up first too as well. But I'm pretty sure that give or take 2 or 3 weeks that Xiaomi will have that fixed, if it is software related, that is. So should you buy this or should you get the Redmi Note 4X? I'm more tempted to say go for the Redmi Note 4X because it has a slightly better panel. It just has slightly better viewing angles and a nicer screen, I feel, on that model. But if you must have the 18:9 aspect ratio, by all means, go for this mobile, but wait for Xiaomi to patch the bugs, to fix that, and of course, wait for the price to drop down, because at the moment, it's just a little too expensive for what it really is, considering we've got the Redmi Note 4X. And if this really is replacing the Redmi Note 5, then very disappointing, because they could have done so much more. Unibody housing, Type-C port, front-facing loudspeaker, Snapdragon 636, and it would have been, I feel, way better than what it is at the moment. Thanks a lot for watching this review, and I do hope to catch you back in the channel with more up-and-coming reviews. Of course, 2018, I will be covering all of Xiaomi's latest and greatest mobiles as well here in the channel. Bye for now.